I'm a cave diver. Bodies don't scare me. After all, every diver who signs up for rescue knows that sooner or later, you're not saving anyone. You're just bringing them back. We're trained to handle that reality. But there are things that no training prepares you for. Things that make death seem almost gentle. This is my story of the Narva cave system in Eastern Europe and why I'll never dive again. The Narva system isn't a place you find in tourist brochures. It sits beneath a crumbling stretch of limestone mountains between Estonia and Russia, riddled with flooded caverns, collapsed tunnels, and chambers that locals whisper about but never enter. The air itself smells ancient when you stand near the entrances, damp, earthy, almost metallic, as though time stopped down there. I had heard about Narva only from older divers, men who drank too much and told stories they swore were real, even when their voices shook. Most called it cursed. A few laughed nervously and said, "If you dive there, you'll hear it too." At first, I thought they were talking about currents or echoes, but I'd soon learn it was something else. I was brought to Narva not by curiosity, but by a call. A team of explorers had gone missing while mapping a submerged chamber about 2 kilometers inside the system. 3 young men, all ambitious, well-equipped, and reckless. Their oxygen logs and trackers went dark after 6 hours, and the surface team never saw them come back. Official rescue divers refused to go. Too unstable, too remote, too risky. But I had a reputation for taking difficult jobs, and when money was promised, I said yes. I shouldn't have. My partner, Marek, was a local diver, older than me, with hands that shook slightly even before we entered the water. He didn't talk much on the ride there except to warn me. The caves here, they're not like others. Don't trust what you see. Don't trust what you hear. I thought he was just superstitious. The mouth of Narva yawned like a wound in the earth, half hidden by pine trees and moss. We suited up in silence. Twin tanks, reels, backup lights, redundant systems, the usual. As we descended into the narrow limestone throat, the water swallowed us in chilling silence. My light carved a path through the murk, revealing jagged walls that pressed closer the deeper we went. The first hour was uneventful. Just endless submerged corridors, some so tight I had to exhale to squeeze through. My breathing sounded too loud, too human against the crushing stillness. Occasionally I glanced back at Marek, his beam steady, his face unreadable behind his mask. Then we reached the first chamber. It was vast, cathedral-like, with stalactites hanging like teeth above an abyssal pool. Our lights barely reached the ceiling where faint carvings, no, scratches, etched into the stone. Patterns I didn't recognize. I thought they might be natural, but Marek shook his head slowly, as if warning me not to ask. We pressed on. At the 90-minute mark, I noticed something strange. My depth gauge flickered, showing impossible numbers as if I were hundreds of meters deeper than reality. I tapped it, reset it, but the screen only glitched more. Marek's gauge seemed fine, but when I signaled, he looked away. Another corridor, another squeeze. My reel line snagged for a moment, and when I turned to free it, I thought I saw movement in the silt, like a hand withdrawing into the rock. My heart spiked. I steadied my breathing, telling myself it was just an illusion, stirred up sediment. But the water seemed to pulse, as though exhaling. We found the explorer's guideline at last, tied sloppily to a rock formation. It disappeared into a tunnel slanting downward into darkness. That was their last known route. My chest tightened with unease, but Marek nodded, and we followed it. The deeper we went, the colder it grew, not just in temperature, but in sensation, the kind of cold that feels alive, pressing against your skin, probing. My regulator hissed in and out, and I forced myself to focus. Then came the sound. At first, it was faint, like the groan of shifting rock. But as we advanced, it sharpened. It wasn't rock. It was a voice. Muffled, distorted by water, but unmistakable. Someone whispering. I froze. My light swung wildly over the limestone, but nothing moved. Merrick's eyes widened. He had heard it too. The whisper wasn't words, not exactly. Just the cadence of speech. Too fast, too wrong, like dozens of voices layered on top of each other trying to crawl into my head. We should have turned back then, but the explorers, we were here for them. So we pushed on. The tunnel opened into another chamber, and that's when we found them. 3 bodies floating near the far wall, their lines tangled together like a macabre web. At first, relief surged. Finally, we could retrieve them, but when I approached, my relief curdled into horror. Their masks were shattered from the inside. Their hands were raw, as if they had clawed at their own faces. One had jammed his regulator so deep into his mouth his jaw was broken. Their eyes were wide open, bulging, as though they had seen something so impossible, so unbearable they tried to escape their own skin. Merrick grabbed my arm, pulling me back. His face behind the mask was pale, almost gray. He shook his head violently, signaling retreat. But before we could move, the whispering grew louder. And then the lights went out. All at once, total blackness. My backup light should have kicked in, but it didn't. My computer screen was dead. Even the faint glow of Merrick's beam vanished. For a moment, the world was nothing but my breath, rapid and panicked. Then I realized I couldn't even see my own hand against my mask. The whispering was all around me now. No, not whispering, breathing, as though the cave itself inhaled and exhaled with me. I tried to grab the real line, but my fingers met nothing. The line was gone. Something brushed my leg. Not Merrick. Something soft, dragging, almost curious. I kicked hard, disoriented, spinning in the void. My regulator slipped for half a second, and icy water flooded my mouth. I gagged, shoved it back, sucked air like a drowning man. My chest screamed with terror. And then, light. A pale, sickly glow, not from my torch but from ahead. Shapes emerged. At first, I thought it was just limestone reflecting strangely. But no, they were faces. Dozens of them, pressed into the stone walls as though the cave had swallowed people whole and left only their expressions behind. Mouths open, eyes wide, frozen in agony. The glow seeped from their empty sockets. I thrashed backward, heart hammering. The faces seemed to pulse, the stone shifting as if they were trying to push free. One of them opened its mouth wider, and I swear I heard it. The same garbled whispers that had haunted the tunnels. Merrick screamed. I'd never heard a man scream through a regulator like that, but it tore through the water, raw and animal. His beam flickered on for just a second, and in that flash I saw his mask cracking, spiderweb fractures spreading across the glass. He clawed at it, just like the explorers had. I lunged for him, but something pulled me back. Not physically, no hand, no rope, but a force, like the current of the entire cave pulling inward, sucking me toward those faces. My arms shook as I fought, my mind spiraling into panic. The last thing I remember clearly was my own voice, muffled and broken, screaming into the void as my vision blurred. The faces leaned closer, mouths gaping, whispering in unison. And then, silence. When I woke, I was on the bank near the cave mouth, coughing up water, my tanks empty. My reel line lay beside me, cut clean. Merrick was gone. Completely gone. Not a trace. No body was ever found. I never told the recovery team what I saw. I told them my light failed, we got separated, and I barely made it out alive. They nodded, perhaps even believed me. But every night since, I hear the whispering when I close my eyes. It waits in the silence, patient, like the cave is still breathing with me. And sometimes in the dark, I swear I see faces in the walls of my room. I've retrieved bodies before. I can handle death. But what waits in Narva Cave isn't death. It's something far older, something that wants you to join it. That's why I'll never dive again.